Welcome to my podcast. Welcome to my podcast. Welcome to my podcast. Welcome to my podcast.
Yeah, I must say she touched down.
Yes, sir.
She's in the building. Red Roxx is in the building to display all that greatness. She got a brand new book, I must say. Multimedia journalist, motivational speaker, author of a great book, 10 Bad BIH Commandments. She's in the building. Yeah. Red Roxx.
Thanks for having me.
How are you, sis? What's going on?
I'm great. Aside from, everyday life things, life is great. I can't complain.
I must say, life is most definitely treating you great. New book. I heard some great things about you, and we're going to get into the great things that we heard, I must say. The book, I must say, it's fabulous. It's fabulous.
Thank you.
Before we get in the book, let the people know a little bit about Red Roxx. Where Red Roxx is originally from and things of that nature. Tell everybody, please.
Well, I'm in and from Buffalo, New York, born and raised. I hop around a lot for work, but this is home for me. And I've been in radio for 10 years. So I've been writing for just about as long. As far as professionally, I've been writing all my life though. And I'm a mother of 3.
Ooh,
and
okay.
So that's pretty much. Oh, and I'm also a contributor for Hip Hop Weekly magazine, as well as brand manager for Hip Hop Weekly Radio.
Oh yeah, we gonna get into that. We definitely gonna get into, because that's the meat of my interview. I love to hear stuff like that. I definitely love to hear the stuff like that. But we came to talk about the book because you got a fabulous book that's on Amazon. I must say, it is a woman of color, self-love woman empowerment workbook, which is entitled 10 Bad BIH Commandments.
Yes.
I love the title. Can we talk about the book? Let's talk about the book a little bit. Tell everybody, why did you come up with this title for the book, 10 Bad BIH Commandments?
Well, just because I've had a lot of struggles throughout my life, and I've learned a lot through those struggles. I'm not exactly where I want to be yet. I'm working to get there, and I feel like, a lot of times people just look at what you're doing or your outer appearance, and they assume that everything else is great. So I've been called a bad bee myself several times. Oh, Roxy, like a bad bee, this, that. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, if you only knew, like, my life is a complete shambles right now.
Right.
But, so it just got me to thinking, like, I don't want to just look like I have it all together. I want to actually have it together. So this actually started as a personal growth thing for me, especially during the height of the pandemic, where we were all kind of trying to recalculate what we were doing and how we're doing things, and, faced with a lot of different obstacles. I wasn't able to do events anymore, and all the things that I was so used to doing, being a social butterfly, which kind of for me was almost like a distraction,
right?
From the things that I really should have been focusing on,
right,
internally. So having to sit down and have that time to really think, kind of forced me to look at myself with a magnifying glass, and the things that were going on in my life, and why they were happening, and how I could, make things better. And so I thought that, it was a great idea to kind of help to bring other women along, not only for this journey in particular, but also to be able to share my experiences, which, I did get very personal in certain aspects of the book, with hopes that other women can learn, or, maybe going through those things, and it can see that even someone like me, I'm not, I go through those things as well,
right,
so that they're not alone. They don't feel alone.
right. I definitely get it. I definitely get it, and I applaud you for that one. I must say,
Thank you.
it's a fabulous book. Let's
Thank you.
touch more when you say things of what you go through or what you went through. I mean, can we expound on that when you say, because to be honest with you, the title speaks its own revenue. Let's
Yeah.
keep it real. It definitely does. It definitely does.
Right.
But there's some struggles that you went through. Is it a can we get into it? Because I think we could. Because the book,
Absolutely.
you talk about it a lot in the book. Abuse,
Yes.
things of that nature. Can we talk about that? Why you wanted to actually bring it to the forefront of letting the younger generation and ladies know that, hey, this stuff is not tolerated. I went through these things, but I'm going to express these things that I went through in my book, and I'm going to let you know clearly, you still a BIH.
Right. You still
Right?
a bad B.
Yes.
No matter what you go through. And you can still achieve those things that you want to achieve in life despite what you go through. So,
Right.
first of all, I was what I would consider a young mom.
Mhm.
I had my son, I was pregnant with my son at 18, had him at 19. And that started a journey for me that was a tough one. So I dealt with domestic violence.
Yes.
I'm a domestic violence survivor.
Yes.
I dealt with, bouts of not knowing if I was going to have a roof over my head and my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I was on food stamps. I literally at one point, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Daughter's call. I literally at one point, had to, I was only making like $50 a week writing for the Buffalo News.
Mm.
And I was just talking with one of the writers who actually took on the Red Roxx Rundown, which I used to write about artists, local artists.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, and we were talking about my progression because he didn't even know that I was depending. That was my only source of cash, was writing for the newspaper at the time.
Right.
But through all of that, and a series of other things, personal struggles, as a result of the abuse, I dealt with PTSD. I still deal with PTSD, anxiety. I was treated for major depressive disorder for years.
Mm-hmm.
And through all of that, I was still able to go to school and finish my degree. So that's just a part of my story.
Mm-hmm.
And then, unfortunately, as women who are accustomed to abuse, we tend to switch partners with different types of abuse.
Right.
So, I got into another relationship that was very mentally abusive, very gaslighting.
Right.
You almost question reality from what was fake from reality,
Right.
So I dealt with that, and that led me down a road where at one point I didn't even want to live,
Wow.
So with all of that, I can either I can say what was me and treat people like garbage and be a nasty person, which I've never been.
Right.
But I worked really hard to not let those situations turn me into that person and allow it to shape me into a better person, and also allow me to be able to help shape other women and let them know, like, I don't care how bad it gets, it will get better. And you'll come out a better person for it, as long as you do the work and ensure that it doesn't, tear you down.
I love that. I definitely love that. I'm a spokesperson for that because I'm somewhat a child, our only child, and you know me. I get into, sometimes I like to share my stories, and Pep Talk fans, they know I like to share my stories every now and then. So when I read your book, I thought of myself as a child being an only child who had a single mom in the house who was abused.
Yeah.
Who was abused. So I must say I felt the pain in the book when I was reading it. And as I'm reading, I said, dag, this reminds me of when I was a child going through what my mom used to go through. And for me to see that as a child, I can relate.
Yeah.
I definitely can relate. As you know, I didn't have siblings. I was by myself. So, you know, I was very crammed in as a boy, but I saw those things. I saw domestic violence. I experienced it. So I know what you're talking about when you say that, you know?
It's tough. The motherhood chapter was probably one of the tougher chapters because, you know, for years you're kind of taught as a parent, I'm the parent, you're the child. You know, you do what I say. Don't talk back to me. I don't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
Yeah.
you're so focused on literally just surviving day
Right.
to day.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I really didn't realize how much, you know, my oldest son probably took the brunt of that because I had him the youngest.
Right.
And he was around for the longest,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
for all of it. So it's like, you know, very tumultuous relationship, very toxic relationship. And I, you know, I'm not gonna say that it was all, you know, the male either. You know, I too had toxic behaviors, and
Right.
not saying that that's an excuse for anything. It's not, but
Mm-hmm.
just I had to keep it real with myself,
Right.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I had to keep it real with myself as a mother
Right.
and say, okay, you did the best you could do with
Mm-hmm.
the tools you were given.
Yes.
But now that you know what you can do better, you know, you can't take away the past, but you can try to repair and build a better future and a better
Right.
relationship,
Right.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to admit that I failed in certain aspects
Mm-hmm.
of my mothering, was hard. It was a hard realization. You know,
Right.
you don't want to be a bad mom.
Right.
And I felt, like I say in the book, you know, my book, I felt that, well, I'm not out here on drugs and I'm not out here prostituting and I'm not doing all these other things that people without a doubt label, you know, somebody a bad mother for. But there were things that I was doing and subjecting myself to that was equally as damaging to
Right.
my kids,
Right.
such as staying in abusive relationships
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, not putting them first when I really should have. And, you know, different things like that. So I had to come to that realization and say, okay, now that you can be at peace with that, now it's time to rebuild your relationships and try to just have a better future.
You hit it on a you hit it on the nose, I must say. I like that. I like that. The book inspired me, but I want to know one thing. It's called 10 BIH Commandments, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you was to give us 3, you know how Biggie said, rule number 1, rule number 2, rule number 3. If you was to give the ladies out there right now the rules, give us 3 rules that in the commandments that you feel that you want to lay it down. Let's lay it down for them.
Yeah.
Let's lay it down.
I would say the 3 most important, you know, it's not all about beauty, you know. Have your mental together.
Yes.
You know, being crazy is not cute. And honestly, it's kind of, you know, especially with like reality TV and things like that, it's almost accepted these days. And, you know, I think about even when I used to label myself as being crazy. I'm crazy, but you know,
Yeah.
and it's not cute. That's not cute.
Mm-hmm.
No, you know, be sane. You
Mm-hmm.
know, be peacefully in love, and you know, really learn yourself, learn what triggers you, um learn that it's okay to admit that you're feeling depressed and you need additional help. Get therapy. Like,
Mm.
please.
Yeah.
I encourage it. Get there. You're not crazy.
Right.
You're not, you know, it's so ridiculous that when I first started going to therapy,
Mm-hmm.
as Red Rocks,
Right.
you know, I was so afraid of people recognizing me. I used to schedule my appointments either early in the morning or late in the evening,
Right.
and I would wear sunglasses and a hat. Like, this is, you know, and nowadays, now the person I am now, I don't care. Like, I'm getting help. And maybe if you're
That's right.
criticizing me
Mm-hmm.
for getting help, you probably need to get help too.
Mm.
So that's one. You know, it's not all about your looks. You know, make sure your brain is together.
Mm.
And your emotions, you know. The second thing would be I would say financials. Right now, during this time, like, if you had a business, you can get help with your business, all
Mm-hmm.
types of loans, all types of things. If you
That's right.
didn't have a business, this now is probably the best time ever to start a business, or to be able to pay off debt, or to be able to, you know, get yourself financially stable. And I mean, that's important. Like, you know, I know some of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life, and they're literally, they don't have a place to stay.
Wow.
And it's like, okay, so you could be as beautiful as you want, but you're just, you know, financially wise, you're not there. Fix your credit. You know, those are important things, I think, for any woman who wants to consider herself even remotely a bad B. Like, you know, have a place to stay.
Right.
And then I would say, because you have finances, we have motherhood, we have I'm just trying to think of the most important one. Oh, self-love.
Ooh, love yourself. That's right. Mm-hmm. I like
Self-love.
that one. Yes.
Man, I
Yeah.
struggle. I still struggle.
Uh,
You know, I still struggle with just loving, and it's not about looking in the mirror and liking what you see as far as your outer appearance.
right.
Because you know what? I look at pictures from like a long time ago when I was in these relationships, you know, a
Mm-hmm.
few years back and then longer than that. And I can see, I can see the hurt in my eyes.
Ooh.
I can see the lack of self-love that I have for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can literally I hate looking at old pictures because I can literally see it and it makes me sad,
Right.
because it's like, you know, only if I had loved myself a little bit more, I wouldn't have put myself, I don't believe, in those types of situations and circumstances. I
Right.
would not have allowed myself to be, because I love myself too much. Like,
Right.
no. It's just so important. It's the basis to everything. It literally is the basis to everything. That was another hard chapter for me to write, because I had to talk about these relationships that I cultivated out of not loving myself enough. And situations that I put myself into, relationships and friendships and familial situations, and you know, all because I put myself love last.
Mm.
And you know, that's just so important. And you have to love yourself more than your kids. You have to love yourself more, you know, than your parents. You have to love yourself more than any material thing, because the moment you put something in front of yourself, your value begins to deteriorate, and you stop thinking, you stop putting priority on what your happiness is going to look like, and what you need in order to function day to day, and your mental health and all of that
Yeah.
falls under self-love. So if you don't love yourself first, then you're not going to be any good to anyone else.
Mm.
You're destroying yourself.
I love it. That speaks very. I mean, I must say it's clear. It's volume. It speaks very good volume at the end of the day. I must say. I got to say that because at the end of the day, if you're listening, you tuned in. If you really tuned in, we here with Red Roxx. She's speaking her truth, I must say, through her book, BIH Commandments. 10 Bad BIH Commandments. She's speaking her truth, I must say. And she gave you, a part of the book, she gave you three things out of the 10 of the commandments. So you got to get the book to order to know the rest of the commandments. But she gave you three good advice, I must say.
And also get the book for the activities as well, because like in the self-love chapter, we have the 20-day Love on You challenge. And these are actual things that I do.
Right.
These are actual things that I did, that I do currently.
Well, say one more time. It's called the Love on You
20-day Love on You challenge.
Oh, I like that.
So, there are things that I don't do. I don't do them every single day.
Right.
But I've done them. So basically the challenge is to kind of kickstart you getting into the habit of paying attention to yourself, giving yourself the same love that you want somebody else to give you or that you want to give other people. We always talk about how much we love other people, but we just don't talk about enough of how much we love ourselves.
Right.
Sometimes it might come across as being arrogant or conceited or whatever the case. I'll scream from the mountaintop. I love me more than anything. And some people aren't used to treating themselves to things. Some people feel guilty. They feel like they shouldn't be doing that. You know what I mean? And no, you should be. You should buy yourself flowers every now and again. You should take yourself out on a date.
Yes.
You should go get that massage or that facial. And then there's things on there that doesn't cost a dime that you can do. But it's just, like I said, it's just something to help kickstart you to get into the habit of really loving on yourself.
I love that key word, loving on yourself, because at the end of the day, a lot of us folks don't love ourselves. We too busy loving others instead of taking the time out to love you.
Exactly. And
to love you.
You're not loving other people properly if you don't love them.
That's true. That is most
You're
definitely true.
No.
So, yes, I must say, I agree with you 100%. So we touched bases on the book. Let's talk about, if you can't see, if those that can see and those that, are listening, because we do have just listeners, because we air this audio on Spotify. Red Roxy, I mean, she is Red Roxy. She is so adorable, I must say. Let's talk about the name Red Roxy. Where did that come from?
Well, my last name is Red Roxx. Just kind of came along with it.
So this is your real name. Red Roxx is your real name.
Yeah. So Red is my real name, and then Roxx, just like I rock, like Red Roxx.
Okay, I'm every rock on every block. I get it. Okay, I love the name. I must say, I definitely love the name. We're gonna get into some Peptalk questions. Let's get into, because the fans, they told me, they said, hey, you're interviewing Red Roxx. I mean, I have a couple of questions I want to know. I want to ask a question. Let's get into the question. So we got a question from Tamia. She said, what does being a bad bitch mean to you? And what do you think can be done to lessen the stigma of the word BITH?
So my idea of this is kind of like how the N-word is, we kind of took the power away from that word being so terrible, by, making it a term of endearment,
Yeah.
Yeah. However, I feel like the word bad B, especially in our culture and in the urban world, it's typically, the woman with a nice body, long hair, pretty face. Um, but like I said earlier, the rest of her life is not together, and then you have these guys that put women on a pedestal by calling them bad bees, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
once they get the bad bee, then they want to dog her because she doesn't have this, that, and the third.
Right.
Now she wants money because she's broke.
Right.
So that's the thing. I wanted to make it an empowering term, not just looks and body, but also everything.
Right.
To me, a bad bee has her life together. Like when I look at a woman and I say, okay, she makes good money, she drives a nice car, she has a solid relationship, or maybe she doesn't, maybe she's happy single. She is, working on being a great mother. She's, running a couple of businesses. She's educated. That to me, aside from appearance is not even a chapter in this one.
Right.
I might do volume 2. But that's not even a chapter, because that to me comes last to everything.
Right. I love it. We got one more. We here. If you just tuned in, we kicking it with Red Roxx. I mean, she stepped on Peptalk, and we here kicking it. She's family now. She's on our platform. She's our family. She's definitely our family. Let's get into one more question. Rachel wants to know, she says, in the midst of the pandemic and the economic crisis, what do you think is important of women to take more control of?
Mental health.
Okay.
Mental health.
Okay.
It's a sad statistic that during the pandemic there has been a striking rise in domestic violence cases. And aside from the domestic violence, the pandemic has kind of allowed us to quiet the noise of the world and really begin to focus on what's important. And then not to mention just how fragile life is and how quickly things can change. So I would say 2 things. So I would say the first is mental health, and then the second is your business. I think also the pandemic has taught us how important it is more than ever to not put all your eggs in one basket and to have multiple streams of income, which I talk about in the entrepreneurial section of my book as well. That's in the financial section. I think the pandemic has taught us the most about the importance of having multiple streams of income.
I love that. That's definitely true. One more question. We're gonna do one more questions, and we're gonna keep it going.
I'm chilling.
We're gonna keep it going. We had someone that wants to know. Her name is. Her name is Kimberly. Kimberly wants to know what was the hardest chapter to write in your book? What was the hardest chapter?
I would say it has to be a tie, honestly, between the self-love and mental health. Because I talked about things that publicly that I haven't really talked about, like, depression and the relationships that I was in and things like that. I would say probably the self-love chapter was the hardest of the 2.
Ooh, self-love. Okay. And why would you say that? Self-love. Because you did touch base on it, but if it was hard, I want to get to the meat of the hardness, that you felt, that you say, you know what, this right here, it really touching my heart right now. Let me put this pen down. Let me go get some water and come back. You know what I mean? As a writer, you know?
I I actually cried a couple of times while I
Right.
wrote that chapter.
Wow.
And it was hard because I talked about even how I remember feeling as in my childhood as a teenager.
Hmm.
Um, it was hard because I didn't love myself enough to think I deserved to live
Mm.
points in my life.
Right. Mm.
And looking back to see how far I've come from those points, um, it's rewarding. But it's also, you know, I wasted so much time on not loving myself. I
Mm.
missed out on so much.
Right.
So, sometimes it makes me a little sad.
Mm.
But it's great to be able to reflect on it and reflect on it honestly, because I know where I will never go back again.
Mm.
I will never allow myself to get pulled back into those depths again.
Yeah.
So it is, a reminder for me. And I hope that it is also equally as rewarding to other women or someone who might feel so down on themselves that they too don't feel like living. And I just hope that it helps to save a life or two.
Mm. Mm. You know, you touching me right now because at the end of the day, I'm looking at that person that may be struggling right now, that may be listening to this interview and may be struggling. And there's hope in your transgression and what you went through. There's hope. Somebody's pulling from this interview right now, and I love the energy. I must say I love the energy because at the end of the day, your book is going to help somebody, and thousands of people are probably tuned in right now. Somebody needs help. Somebody needs to hear that.
Someone actually reached out to me, and they said that, my book was life changing. They said that they realized they needed to get the therapy that they was, pretty much kind of avoiding. And they went to therapy. They started going to therapy, man. And that to me, like, if that was the only book that I sold,
I love it. I love it. I love it.
I would have been happy.
Yeah.
Because, man, it's like that's something that money can't buy.
No.
No. But I just, I hope that if somebody's listening to this and they feel like their relationship is ending, they feel like it's the end of the world, they feel, their job is ending, they feel like they don't know what they're going to do. They might be struggling with their children.
Yes.
Being, just, academically or behavior wise. They might be struggling internally.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I remember there were days I couldn't get out of bed.
Mm.
And I'll never forget, I was in bed for about 3 days straight. I caught off of work 3 days straight. I literally was in bed 3 days straight. And the person I was with at the time, the one that was gaslighting me and making me feel like everything in my head was crazy, cheating on me, and he was doing all types of stuff.
Mm.
I literally was so drained that I couldn't get out of bed. I was depressed. I was riddled with anxiety. And I remember he came in the room and he said, "Well, you had a nice 3-day vacation in the bed."
Mm.
And I remember thinking to myself, like, what? A vacation is on an island somewhere, not in bed, trying to sleep just to escape your thoughts.
Oh my God.
Or on it. So maybe somebody's listening that's there, you know. I just want you to know that life is beautiful and those things don't last always. And the only consistent thing in life is change.
Mm,
As long as you're alive and as long as you're breathing, you have the ability to change anything.
mm.
Um, so just it's gonna be some tough days. It's gonna be some days that you don't want to get up. It's gonna
That's
be some
right.
days that you want to eat, that you don't want to do anything. And you know what? Just slowly start getting up and start, doing what you need to do. But sometimes you got to let that process kind of write itself out.
Yes.
But just don't give up hope while you're doing that.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And the sun will shine again.
Yes,
the
it
sun
will.
always come out again. And that person that you think that you can't live without, you can live without them.
I love it. Aren't
that
you?
job that you can't do without, you could do without it.
That's right. Yes, you could.
So your kids will get it together.
Yeah.
Utilize your resources, do what you can do, and talk to your kids.
That's it.
Talk to your kids. It's awkward. Like my son laughed in the car with me yesterday because he was talking to me about his little girlfriend, the situation that was going on.
Uh-oh.
And he laughed after.
Mm-hmm.
And
how old is your son? How old is he?
He's 18.
18. Oh, okay.
My oldest.
You. That's dope. That is really great. So he laughed, and what happened? Tell us the story, please. Share that with us.
He laughed after he got done telling me why him and the girl, the last girl who I knew that he was kind of dating, why they fell out.
Oh,
and,
okay.
And then he laughed. He chuckled. I said, "What are you laughing for?" He was like, "It's I'm still getting used to talking to you about this type of stuff."
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of hurt a little bit. I'm happy that we're in this place though, but it kind of hurt a little bit because I wish that he felt more comfortable talking to me about certain things. And a few months back, he let me know that he was feeling depressed and that he wasn't feeling like himself and that he wanted to talk to somebody. And I'm just so thankful that I woke up in time to where he felt comfortable enough to tell me that. Because
Thanks for sharing that with us, Roxx. Thanks for sharing that with us. Thanks for opening up to us. We really, I get it. I definitely get it. You know why I get it? Because at the end of the day, it's hard being the mother and the dad.
Right. Well,
I
think their father is really, their father is there as well. But, their father has his own set of issues. He's a military veteran.
Right.
And he went to war, Iraq, Operation Iraqi Freedom. So he has his own, set of issues. So they kind of grew up with two parents, one that was, has PTSD from the military and most of other issues. A mom who is coping with PTSD and, anxiety as well, and depression things, and putting herself into these relationships, these unhealthy relationships, So it's I can't take away their dad, what he does. He's an amazing, amazing father.
Right.
To them. But it's still it's still a separate household. It's a separated family. It's a divided family.
Right.
And in any divided family, there's going to be a set of obstacles and difficulties and things you have to overcome. It took us a very long time to get to a place where we can co-parent peacefully.
Right.
Even our co-parenting was tumultuous after we separated. So it took us a long time to get here. but
I want to say this to you. I definitely want to say this to you. I know at the end of the day, fathers are active in their kids' life. Most fathers are. But when I say, I want to say this to you as a parent, thank you for, him being, because you got to realize a mother is a nurturer.
Yeah.
You are natural born nurturer. So a father can't give a child what a mom can give a child.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
when I say I commend you on being dad and mom, I'm not saying that to separate the father. I'm saying that because I know you are a natural nurturer. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, when he's at work, however, you got home moms, you got people that stay home and they take care of their kids while dad is at work. They're playing the role of dad and mom.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm saying? So I
And
say,
even in our household, even in like, well, now, I have a partner, significant other, but
mhm,
for many years, it was just me,
yeah,
and when they were with me primarily, it was, I did have to play both roles. So I
yeah,
understand what you're
yeah, definitely. This is no shade to him.
saying.
He's always going to be dad. He's always going to
I,
be there.
I always have to big him up though, because
Yeah,
I would never want him
I
to
respect that.
interview back, and I'm just taking all the credit.
I gotta respect that though, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. I'm gonna say this, and then we're gonna move on because I know I don't want to take up too much of your time. But I'm gonna say this real quick because I know as a only child, I know sometimes we gotta understand that us dads, it's a struggle for us sometimes too. And
Yeah.
a mom like you, I have to respect because we ain't throw him under the bus. You just said, listen, we made this child together. And with us making this child together, I'm going to stand tall on our promise together. Even if it get rocky, God never said it was going to be easy. Nobody said the role was going to be easy. But y'all made this child together. So at the end of the day, it's still you guys. No matter how much hatred there, I want somebody, because somebody's listening. I want people to know that no matter how rocky the road gets with you and your significant other, no matter what the challenges may come, y'all still bonded together no matter what. That child
Yeah.
is still going to reach out to you. And when he get older, he's going to, hopefully, whatever the challenges is, hopefully he'll be able to reach out to his dad and say, you know what, Dad, I still love you. No matter what, I
Right.
still love you.
And a lot of this too, what I want to make a point to, because we had a very rocky co-parenting situation after we separated, but um, I never dogged my I never dogged their father to them. Like I
That's
never
respect.
talked
That's
about
definitely
their
respect.
dad to my kids, and it was
Mhm.
so much so that my oldest, when we finally had our breakthrough
Mhm.
a couple years ago, when he said he felt like he couldn't talk to me, and
Mhm.
that's when I started making an effort to really communicate with him and really open the platform and make him comfortable, try to make him as comfortable as possible with talking to me. um he didn't even know some of the things that went on.
Right.
Like
Mhm.
I never told my side of the story
Yeah.
to my children.
I love it. Yeah.
They seen what they seen, but I never really explained it to them.
Mhm.
I just always was in autopilot and just doing what I had to do to
Yeah.
stay above water for them.
Now you
Even
one in a you now to be I don't mean to cut you off, Red, but you 1 in 1,000 because you got because there's a diamond in the rough everywhere, but most women are like you, but they got most women that will bash the father.
no,
And you
not never.
still tall, and I commend you on that.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mean, I want them to love their father.
Right.
I didn't want them to see their father through my eyes.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and I I know this, one thing's for sure, two things for certain. You are who you are.
That's right.
And when they're old enough to make that determination and discern for themselves, they'll be able to do that. And although my son was, he was about 16 when he first opened up to me, and I told him, like, this is what happened. This is the reason why I had to make this decision.
Right.
This is why I have to do this, or why I didn't do this, or, so then I was able to kind of explain to him the reasoning behind some of the decisions that I made that he didn't understand, that he all these years thought that I was just trying to destroy our family and do. And I'm like, no, son, once he got to that point where I was able to talk to him, and, at this age, you know your father, you know me, you can make a decision on your own.
That's right.
As to whether you still want to hold resentment towards me for those decisions, or we're just going to move past it. But you're now old enough to be able to understand why. I can't explain to an 8-year-old why I'm taking all of our stuff in the middle of the night and leaving the house and leaving our house and our car and all of our clothes and everything.
Roxx, the reason I'm gonna stop you, because right now you giving me therapy. I'm gonna be honest with you. I say you giving me therapy because everything that you're saying, God has a reason and a plan for situations. And this situation and this conversation is what I experienced. My son is, let me share my story again, because, we pep talking and we kicking it. We got Red Roxx in the building. She's with us, so we kicking it on Pep Talk. Let me share my story with you. My son, my own son, right? Same situation that you said as a mother, as him being 8 years old. You didn't want to do these things and put these things in his mind. But my situation was totally different. Those things was put in the mind. And as my son got older, he's 22 years old now. My other one is 20. He's 22 years old now. And now in his mind, he's saying, Dad, all the things that was put in my head, now that I experience being with you and spending time with you and sharing the moments with you, those things were incorrect. I see you totally different now.
Relationships,
Yeah.
As a kid, you can't explain an interpersonal relationship between two adults. They're not gonna understand that.
Yeah.
They're not, so I didn't, sometimes it could go one or two ways. Some people feel like they want to be honest with the kids. They want to tell the kids everything. They want to, be upfront. But you have to also think about the mind capacity of a child, no matter how much mature you think your child is, because my 18-year-old has been very mature for, as a kid, he had a lot of responsibility. So they still can't really process that they've never been in an interpersonal relationship with the opposite sex.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to a 22-year-old or even a 16-year-old, once he got to have a little couple girlfriends by that age.
He said, I get it. He gets it. Yes. Things
get a little crazy. And, miscommunications happen and misunderstandings happen. And so when you're talking to your son at 22, he gets it. He probably like, oh, mom was just being crazy.
Yes.
like old girl. So it's like they can understand it more and they can digest it more. And then it's not that you're trying to tarnish someone's name, or that you're not, you're now able to explain things that they can understand. And I still didn't dash. When I was telling them, like, these are the reasons why I made the decisions that I made. These are the things that happened. These are the sequence of events that started this chain reaction. And this is what I felt I needed to do. These were the cards that I was dealt, and I dealt them the best I could. I didn't always make the best decisions because I was young. We were growing up together. You were teaching. I was learning life as I'm trying to teach you life. So yeah, I didn't make the best decisions all the time. Yes, I wish you weren't subjected to some of the things that you've seen and some of the things that you've experienced. But now that you're old enough, you can make that determination and you can decipher between things. I'm not going to bash your father because I want you to love him. That's your father. And not to mention, I also want you to respect him.
I
Because if
love it.
I'm bashing your father and you get up out here as a teenager and think that you about to just do anything or about to buck up at me, who am I going to call if you don't respect your father?
Ooh, talk about it now. Speak your truth.
That's shooting myself in the foot.
Yeah, yeah.
So, that's doing a disservice to my son.
Yeah, definitely. I must say, I love this conversation. Hey, y'all know us. This is Pep Talk, man. We kicking it. This is what Pep Talk is about. It's really what it's about is sharing those life learn lessons. This is a lesson for you women out there who have a tendency of bashing the father and not really saying, you know what, I'm going to keep these feelings inside of me. I'm not going to tell myself these things, my son these things or my daughter these things to make them turn against their father. Because at the end of the day, down the road, they might need their father.
Yeah. But not only women about men, though. Men do it too because I can't.
Yeah, that's true.
Because just in the same breath, how I had to explain things to my son, like I said, I really didn't tell my side of the story because I was mature enough to know that he wouldn't have understood it at a such a young age. And that first of all, I have way too many other things to focus on rather than bashing you. I have to focus on whether or not we're gonna have a roof over our head, food on the table.
Let's talk about it.
My own mental health. So. I was more focused on that, but see, as his father, when he was estranged a little bit, for a while after we separated, he took every opportunity to bash me, took every opportunity to talk bad about me. He had my kids even thinking that I forced him to do certain things, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
But I just let that, I let it rock. Because so it's important though that men also don't bash your baby mother. Don't
That's
bash
facts.
your
Yes.
to your kids. Like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that's even more toxic. I don't think one is worse than the other, but either parent shouldn't.
That's true. That's true.
Period.
That's true. Life learned lessons. You on Pep Talk. If you're listening, you're tuned in. Red Roxx is dropping jewels. She dropping jewels for, parenting and things of that nature. It's lessons in this thing, man. Like Meek Mills would say, learn life, young man. Learn life, young woman. There's rules to this thing of life. There's rules. But, Roxx, to be honest with you, we didn't come here for this. Not only this, we came here to get into this book you have. And to be honest with you, I'm going to be honest with you, you're making me even more want to go back to the book and read it some more because at the end of the day, you're dropping all these jewels. And I'm like, is this in the book? Is this really in the book? And I know a lot of this stuff you're talking, it's in the book. It's in the book. Go pick it up, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to tell you where to get it at the end of the show, but let's talk a little bit more. Let's kick it a little more. I know I'm taking up a little more than what I'm supposed to take it up, but I need to get to some more of the meat of this stuff here. This is some good stuff. So let me ask you this question. Are we planning a book tour? Is there a book tour for the book?
So I actually wanted to do a signing, and also I want to do some virtual panels and things for different chapters of the book.
Okay.
To kind of get more in depth with it and with some professionals actually.
Yeah.
I'm no professional. I say that up front in the book. I'm no professional. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a a fitness group. I'm not any of these things in this chapter. I am not a professional of.
Mm-hmm.
I am speaking solely from my own personal experience, and as you can see, I have a lot of experiences
Yes.
in these things.
Yes.
And then I'm also just giving these activities as a way to reflect. So it's not to tell you need to do this.
Right.
If they're thought provoking to say, these are some things you should think about, or kind of allow you to look at things from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the purpose of it. So yeah, I want to do a book tour. I want to be able to talk to women directly who have been impacted by things that I talk about in the book. Offer and lend that encouragement face to face, and as well as with the signing, and then also do some virtual conferences too.
I love it. I ain't a woman, but I'm online. I swear I'm I'm the first person online. Like, sign this book for me, please.
About it. It's Bad BIH Commandments, but you don't have to be a woman. Like, to be like really.
I'm glad you touched on that. Yes, talk about it.
Yes. So, like, when we talk about like your spiritual goals,
mm-hmm.
Like my spirituality section doesn't say you have to go to church. It doesn't say you have to burn sage.
Mm-hmm.
What the thing is, whatever your spiritual beliefs are, dive into them a little deeper.
Yeah.
Connect a little deeper. And then also, for me personally, I began to take this a deeper spiritual journey once I kind of released what the kind of stigmas or different things. So I started to explore different aspects of different spiritualities,
right,
and incorporated what I felt helped me the most.
Mm-hmm.
So meditation, crystals, things like that. So, and some people will feel like those things are the devil, which is perfectly fine.
Right.
So it's just basically saying whatever it is your beliefs are, dive into them deeper. What are your goals when it comes to your spiritual beliefs? And how can you accomplish those goals to help center yourself a little bit more in life?
Right.
And that could be a man or a woman,
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to taking care of your mental health, when it comes to taking care of your physical health, the same things that I talk about in motherhood can be transferred to fatherhood.
Right.
When I'm talking about educational goals, and I'm talking about entrepreneurship and all different, all of these things honestly can be translated to men as well. I can only speak as a woman.
Right.
So I can create a book for men. I'm not a man. But I can create, I can only speak from a woman's perspective, but to be honest with you, it's transferable.
I love it. You say you can't create a book like a man, but I'm gonna get you to help me create one too. Mine's gonna be titled "Man, I'm gonna talk my shit." You know what I mean? Because we go through problems too. We do. Us men out there, we have our issues and things that we might have 10 commandments that we want to create. We have them too. I love it. If you just tuned in, I have my favorite person here, Red Roxx. She became my favorite person today, I must say. Huh? What you said?
I said I started as your family. Now I'm your favorite.
You're my favorite now. That's right. You're my favorite. You're my favorite. You know why? Because I feel your issue. I feel the book when I read it. I feel the issue and I feel connected to you. It's a difference. It's the energy that sets the room. And I always say that. You understand what I'm saying? And hearing your story and talking to you. My mother, My mother said you can't judge a book by a cover, but I judged your book and I read your book and you gave me your book and I loved your book.
Yeah.
So that's why I say you my favorite, because at the end of the day, you took things that you said as a woman, as a black woman, that I went through, that I experienced, and you brought it to the forefront to me as a person. So that's why I say you're my favorite. I got therapy today, and I can't front. I can't front. I got a little therapy today. You opened my eyes to a lot of things with just this little bit of time. You opened my eyes, sis. You did. You did. So, with that being said, let's get into the good stuff, I must say.
Okay.
So, I'm hearing some things. You know, a little bird flew in, told me you was featured on VH1, Love and Hip Hop of Atlanta. Let's get into that. I think that right there is a great thing to be a part of. Let us know what that experience was like.
So I got the call to go down to cover the event. So so I went down, and we have to get a COVID test, and we have to do all of that, and it was
right.
it was a closed set, and I literally, these events have a lot of media presence,
right?
And for me, just kind of getting my feet wet on doing red carpets and things like that, I was a little discouraged by like my first couple of events. Because I do interviews, but I'm more so of a one-on-one interview type of person.
Yes.
And usually when I cover events, I'm kind of like the person covering the event. So like, but some of the events that I was getting with like the magazine and stuff like that were kind of like open to all media. So the first couple events that I did, kind of getting my feet wet with doing red carpet style interviewing, I was a little discouraged because it's like, I'm not an in your face type of person.
Right.
But I'm an assertive person, but I'm just not an in your face, step on your toes type of person. And unfortunately, that's the type of person that you need to be. So, so I learned kind of quickly that, I had to kind of turn that on when I'm doing these events. And so I was very fortunate, like I said, to get the opportunity to fly down and cover this particular event. And I said going in, I am going to make sure that I get every interview that I want to get.
Right.
And that's going to be that. So it was crazy because at the start of the event, everyone was so, hey, hi, you look so nice. Oh, who you with? Very friendly and everything. By the end of the event, nobody wants to talk to me, and they were screw facing me, and I'm like, well, I did my job. So,
I love this media stuff, don't you?
Listen, so I literally, I linked them with, PR right away, and I just made sure that I let my presence be known, and I literally rocked that red carpet. Like I interviewed everybody. And I interviewed everybody first. Because what happens is people, what I had to find out is when they're interviewing with so many different people, by the second or third person, they're like, okay, I have to go.
Right.
And you didn't hop in there right away, you're not going to get your interview.
Okay.
So I learned that quickly. And but it was very dope. The cast and the crew of Love and Hip Hop is extremely professional. Very controlled environment. It was, it was nice. It was nice to be a part of, very organized as well. So that was it was a great experience overall.
I love it. I must say, I love to hear that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be honest with you. Another little birdie. I got to share this with you. I want to know, how was it what was it like meeting the world famous dance hall queen, Spice Girl? I always wanted to meet her. You was able to meet her. I want to know,
Yes.
what was that experience like? Talk to us about that, please.
She's so nice. She's so friendly. She's very, you know, she's very open and welcoming. So she made my job 10 times easier. As an interviewer, I've interviewed, I would say probably somewhere in a couple hundreds of people at this point.
We're gonna get into that, but yeah, let's.
Between phone interviews and in-person interviews, and with On the Roxx, my own show, which I people. I know it's sometimes you get people who are not very talkative, or they just don't like doing interviews.
That's right. Let's talk about it now. Let's talk about it now.
Out your mouth.
You're about to spill the tea, Red Roxx. You're about to.
And you have to be very on your toes and very, innovative, and try to keep the conversation going. And she did not. She was not like that at all. Like, she was, very forthcoming and welcoming. And she's an amazing artist. She also performed at her single release, so she is a great performer. It's a pleasure to do that in person, and just an amazing artist.
I love it. Shout out to Spice, man. Shout out to Spice. I love it. I want to act. Let's get more into it. Let's get more into it. For those that don't know, and for those that are in the know, Red Roxx is also a journalist for Hip Hop Weekly. Yeah, I must say. Talk to us about being a journalist for Hip Hop Weekly. How you landed that gig?
When I started school in nursing, and I dropped out because my heart wasn't in it. I just felt your heart had to be in it. In writing the things that I love to do, I found my communications degree or program. And one of the things I wrote down was, for one, I wrote things I love to do. And then I wrote that I wanted to do in the future, like, some of my dream jobs. One of them was editor-in-chief for a magazine, or writing for a magazine.
Right.
So fast forward, you write things down, they'll come about.
That's true.
And I actually got the opportunity. Shout out to Stretch.
Shout out to Stretch. Yes.
He is he's a pioneer in the game, in the sense that I've watched him, our area, Buffalo, Niagara Falls area, have a whole lot of opportunity. We're getting more opportunities now because we have, the spotlight on us due to some major artists, that's out of our city. Shout out to Griselda,
Shout out to them. Yes.
Conway, Minnie, West Side. However, we don't have a lot of opportunities here, and he's created an amazing opportunity for individuals in the media in our region.
Right.
So he actually is one of the new owners of Hip Hop Weekly magazine over the last few years, and he's actually from Niagara Falls. So the moment that he became, part owner of the magazine, he literally reached out to every person in the media that was in the immediate area that he knew doing, whether it was radio or music or, writing and things like that. And one of them. So, I was dealing with the relationship that I was all mentally discombobulated in, and I actually didn't take advantage of the opportunity right away. But eventually I was able to take advantage of it, and and he didn't like say, oh no, the opportunity is past now. He welcomed me with open arms, and was like, hey, all right, you can start doing this. And so I moved up from doing some like Zoom interviews and things like that to
Right.
IG Live, to actually writing and
Love it.
doing interviews with artists um, and things like that. And then, coming soon, I'll be able to contribute to the actual print version of the magazine, which is going to be amazing to see my name.
I love stories like this, I must say, because, journalism is my thing too, and I love hearing the beginning stages to the stages where you at right now.
Yep.
Can I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
What was one of your most memorable moments and the best interview that you had working with Hip Hop Weekly? Can I ask that question? I know you probably get that question a lot, but I want to know for our Pep Talk fans. I'm gonna be honest.
With Hip Hop Weekly, I would say one of my best interviews was probably with Lyrica.
Oh, she's dope. I like her. Personality wise, I wish I can get an interview with Lyrica. She's dope.
She's really dope. She's down to earth. That was a great interview. And there was another interview. I can't think of his name though. I can't tell you my most memorable interview, although it wasn't with Hip Hop Weekly. So prior to Hip Hop Weekly, I actually did interviews for what was Future Star DJs. Shout out to El Nice.
Shout out to El Nice.
Future Star DJs are now Secret Society DJs, but he's another person that literally helped me get to where I am now, because he was like, hey, I'm doing these conference calls. I want you to interview the artist. So I'm like, okay, eventually because I thought he was just a creep at first.
Yeah.
But he wasn't. I was just kind of like ignore him. And he was like, hey, I need you to do this interview. And I'm like, okay. So, but honestly, it ended up being like the best because I honed my interview skills on these calls. So I was able to interview like Ball Greasy. I a mixtape with Dej Loaf. I interviewed let's see, so many Hitmaker. I'm trying to think of the bigger name. Oh, and then on these calls, my worst interview.
Let's go to the worst. Yes, we have to go to the worst. This is a part of being journalist. Let's get to it.
Travis Scott.
Oh no, not Travis.
Travis Scott. I was so heartbroken because I'm still a fan of Travis Scott now, but at the time, I didn't even want to listen to his music for like a good month because I was so mad at him. And now listening back to it in hindsight, it wasn't as bad as it felt in the moment.
Yeah.
With me being inexperienced and things like that, it felt like a dagger, but he was super short with me. He was telling me that he did not like certain questions and he wasn't going to answer them.
Oh my God.
He's very matter of fact. He was almost mean.
Right.
And I just kind of trucked through and did the best that I can do on the interview. But it was a learning lesson because everybody's not going to be receptive.
That's
everybody's
true.
Everybody's not going to have a good day on the interview.
So, Rob, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm gonna let you continue what you were saying. But is it true? The energy is what sets the room. It's the energy. The energy. So I'm gonna let you continue your story, but we're gonna get back to that. But let's continue your story. Let's do it.
No, I was just gonna say, I didn't have a good day today. I had a crazy day, but I'm able to like put that aside, and but some people aren't.
Right.
So with that being said, it's a learning experience just to know, like, you have to be prepared for people not being receptive to you or not taking to you the way you think they should or would, and just kind of be on your toes and prepare for all possibilities or outcomes. I just didn't expect, and I was so excited about the
Yes.
interview. So excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to Travis Scott. And
Right.
this was years ago. So this was before he was as big as he is now, but he was still a pretty big deal.
Right.
And yeah, that was kind of like the saying, you don't want to meet your heroes because you might be disappointed. So
That is crazy right there. I love that story. Shout out to Travis Scott. Travis, if you ever listen to this pep talk, just know Red Roxy, she's still a fan. She still rock with you.
I still love you. I'm a big music still. I just attribute it to him having a bad day and just not him.
Yeah.
And he is
Yeah.
as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you know what? And let me share this, and we're going to move on, and we're going to get Red Roxy going because I know she got other things going on. You know, 40. Yeah, you know, I was supposed to have been in this, you know, but I want to say this. You know, sometimes we have to realize that most of these artists, they do how many interviews? They do a lot of interviews. And sometimes it can be overwhelming for them. You know, it can be really overwhelming. And they don't mean no harm, but it's overwhelming. But you wouldn't know until you get in the interview with them. Right? So, like I said, shout out to Travis Scott, and we wish you all the best in your journey. I'm here with Red Roxx. We're going to close this out, but I have 2 more questions before I let her go. I have to ask these questions because these are Pep Talk fans questions, and we have to get them out.
Okay. Yes.
We definitely have to get them out. How are you using? Okay, I'm sorry. Tamala wants to know, how are you using your platform for your social good?
Well, that's pretty much a prime example of my book. You know, sharing my own personal experiences, I hope does a lot of good for people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to be on a panel in October, a domestic violence panel in October.
Mm-hmm.
For a local coalition here, and I talk about depression, I talk about anxiety, I talk about, as a matter of fact, I almost put a post up today and I just deleted it because I wanted to reword it a little bit different. But I basically, and I'm gonna post it, but I talk about it openly because, you know, I was stigmatized for so many years, feeling that I didn't want people to think I was crazy. I didn't want people to look at me differently. I didn't want, you know, men to not like me because they think I'm crazy, you know. So, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, I was so like not frozen up, but like, you know, in fear of just embracing, you know, mental health. So I was going to say something to the effect of, you know, it doesn't have to just be schizophrenia or bipolar or all these, you know, all these mental health diseases that we typically associate with mental illness.
Right.
Anxiety is a mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
Clinical depression is a mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
PTSD is a mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And they need the same care just as bipolar or schizophrenia or any others.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, and I wanted to just word it different, so I didn't post it. I just have it in my drafts. But I do social media and my platform to talk about it, because I feel like the more we talk about it, the more it's going to be accepted, and the more that people are going to feel comfortable with seeking, you know, the help that they need.
I love it. 2 more questions, and we're going to get you out of here, Roxy. Roxx, I mean, we're going to get you out of here. Do you have any advice Tiffany wants to know, do you have any advice for someone who wants to follow in your footsteps? Do you have any advice for anyone that wants to follow you?
Yeah, if it's radio or, writing, I would say the first piece of advice is just start somewhere, anywhere. When it comes to like radio, you have to just get your foot in the door.
Mm-hmm.
You can try shadowing, you can try internship, which is how I actually got into radio.
Mm-hmm.
My internship, and I just worked my ass off and earned me a spot there. My way on air.
Put in that work, yes. Mm-hmm.
Start with learning how to project your voice, like little things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just start somewhere. As far as writing, sites like Medium, there's a lot of like mass contribution sites that you can kind of get into where you can kind of start getting your hands at, professionally writing. It just depends. I mean, I do a lot of things, so
we know.
I could go on and on. So
yes.
It's really specifically what it is that you're looking to get into, and I
right.
can kind of direct you a little bit more.
I love it. I love it. Tim from New York wants to know what's next for Roxx.
Personally wise, what's next for me is just living the rest of my days abundantly, happily, and as stress-free as possible, loving myself the most that I've ever loved myself. And my kids as well. As far as professionally, I am looking to start getting into more television work. So, and I hope to continue to write and maybe do another edition, to 10 Bad BIH Commandments. But definitely TV. I'm looking to kind of transition into television.
I love it. Well, me personally, I want to say it's been a great time. I must say.
Yeah.
I shared a lot of tears and pain. I almost cried when Roxx cried. I'm not gonna lie. She had me in tears. It's okay. Crying is a part of therapy, and we know this. It's healing. It's the healing process. We know this. I want to thank you for stopping by, Roxy, and coming and sharing with us all this greatness that you got going on. I love the book, 10 Bad BIH Commandments. I love that book. Let everybody know where they can get the book and where they can follow you at, and all the greatness and the merch, whatever they can get. Let everybody know where they can get it.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me. This was an amazing conversation.
Yes.
Definitely worth the wait. And as far as my book, you can find it at redroxx.com/book. And Red Roxx is spelled REDDROXX, like X-ray.
Mm-hmm.
On social media, I'm at Radio Red Roxx. So Radio REDDROXX on everything. I'm not on Twitter right now. So just pretty much Instagram is where you're gonna find me and my content at.
I love it. And if you just tuned in and you're a dollar late and you're short, I must say this has definitely been another segment of Pep Talk. I'm D. Molay. I was kicking it with Red Roxx. She is phenomenal. You can go check her out on all her major platforms. You can go get that book, where she said go get that book. It's available on Amazon. You can also go on Amazon and purchase it. 10 Bad BIH Commandments. This has been another dope segment of Pep Talk. I'm D. Molay, and I'm signing off. Have a blessed one, everyone. Be safe out there. Wear your mask.